Welcome back, everybody. You're not really seeing. Okay, here we go. Psyched myself out there. Okay, so we are back. We're back on this long form journey. We're trying to make this article system so that we can just create our long form CSS and kind of have built in good typography principles just kind of ready for us to go. And so I want to do a speed round today so we can kind of bust through the rest of these kind of more. They're not common. I rarely see these, but I feel like they're still more common than just like some weird div or some weird thing that a dev comes up with to make things kind of maybe force some design, stuff like that. So these are very useful tags, even if they're not as super common across the board. So we're gonna bust them out today. So here is our page. Let's get started with the glossary. So I've got a couple of glossary terms here. So I'm kind of like defining these words for you, and we're gonna look here. Here's our code that we've been working with. It's all in a single file. If you're joining, this is kind of where we've left off. We've got some standard declarations for like just the obvious type elements, but then we've got a bunch of how things stack within context. So that's kind of what these are. We're actually gonna be working these through, making this a lot cleaner. So that's up. Hopefully we can get to that, but we'll just keep going all the way down here. Here's our lovely legalese kind of systems for what are they called, lists, and that was fun last time for those who were there. All right, we've got our glossary. Now I want to show you the HTML just so you can see this, because I do think that this is not as common, but I still think it's pretty useful and probably really good to have for like accessibility and things like that, and maybe even SEO for like kind of showing search engines what this content is about. It's really nice to use some of these built-in tags, even though they're less common. So we start off with kind of like a list item or like a UL, OL. We're starting off with a DL, and description list. I think that's what that comes from. And the description list has two things: a term and a description. And then you can keep listing out more terms and description pairs. So kind of like your dictionary, or something else where you look up some term, you get the definition, and there you go. So that's kind of what we're looking at. So what we want to do is, first of all, term, I think this should always probably be bold, especially when it's so obvious that this is like, we're looking this up. This is pretty standard. I even got my little Spanish dictionary here that I was looking through it to see how they did their stuff, and I know you're not going to be able to see this, but all the terms are bold, and that makes it easier for us to just like scan through. So that's the first thing I want to take care of, is we're going to set up DT. Oops. There we go. And we're just going to always choose the font weight of bold. See how that goes through if we refresh here. So yeah, it should always just be bold, in my opinion. Feel free to take a different approach. Maybe it's all caps. That's probably another acceptable way. Probably not ideal, but especially since right now these are not in line, and I'm not going to cover it in line because I'm not sure that really makes sense for this specific use case, but we absolutely can make it so that the DT is in line with the term or the description itself. So that would be an option. I think it looks nice having this bold and then having the description DD. I think that would be nice to have it tabbed in a little bit so that it's underneath the term. That way it makes it really clear that, just like a list item, you have your first point, and then if you have a sub point, it's like tabbed in. That kind of just makes sense to me. So let's do just a margin left of like 1 rem. See how that looks. So that's kind of nice. It's pretty clear. It's not like excessively tabbed, but I think it's just nice to be able to just sit right underneath the term. And then we can add in some of our spacing. So let's see, DT. It's okay. So if we look at, they'll be in these pairs, right? So probably want the margin top on the term itself. Because again, we are using a margin top based system for the most part, because that just makes things so much easier to lay out in an article sense. So on our term, this is where we're going to add our margin top, and we're going to put, let's grab, what have we been using here? 0.75, maybe 875. Let's see. We could probably do 0.75 since it's not going to be too drastic, and we still want the terms to kind of fit together in a like as a, this all is a glossary, so it is something that is should be grouped together. So we don't want too much space, because then it starts to feel like they're each their own little pocket of information. So the last thing we can do is, since right now our paragraph right underneath it is really butting up against that last term definition here, let's add our margin to the entire list this time. So that was DL, if I recall. And let's grab one of our, I think margin top. Yep. So we've got our UL. This would be very similar to the UL or OL. So I'm going to grab that. We're going to stuff it in here and check out that. Well, actually, and I forgot. So in this case, we need it to be, it would be DL plus P, right? Because we're saying if it's the paragraph following the DL needs to have the margin top. So we're going to switch that around so that now we've got a nice space between our last term and this paragraph right here. And I almost thought about maybe making this a little bit smaller, but I think that's good. I think it helps us stay in a good rhythm. It still is a little bit smaller than the space between that last term and the paragraph. So I think that's still, this is still an appropriate spacing right here. Cool. Well, so there you go. There's that. We're still going to clean things up here, but I wanted to take care of the keyboard tag for this really fast, because we also have a keyboard tag right down here. Little keyboard combo. And I just think this is so cool. This is why I love HTML, because I was perusing on like MDN who knows when, and I discovered, there's a keyboard element or tag, and it's like, that's so cool. There's just these little semantic snippets that we can use that just give a little bit of extra context to screen readers, SEO, all this stuff that just helps us understand what the content is without, it doesn't have to be visually different. It is visually different right now. You can see this font is a little bit different. Looks like they made it monospace and a little bit larger. It doesn't have to be. Visually we can see that these are keyboard combos, but it's just kind of cool that there's that extra layer of information that can be pulled out for whatever use case. So let's do something kind of fun with this, and then let's start cleaning up our stuff here. So let me show you what that looks like in the HTML. We've got our keyboard, and that's KBD. And so that's supposed to surround the key itself. So it shouldn't be surrounding like a whole combo. Like in this case, it's Command plus Shift plus R. We don't want to put the KBD around the entire thing. We're doing it just around the actual keys itself. So what I'm going to do is do KBD, because we're going to tag this, or we're going to style this tag. And I think it'd be kind of cool to have like maybe make it look kind of like a little key. I've seen that in blogs and stuff where it's got like a little bit of a background color. Let's do like let's see, what's a good like kind of grayish. Probably that one actually is probably pretty nice. Let's see what that is actually. Oh, that's maybe a little too dark. We'll just make some quick adjustments to that just really fast. Yeah, something like that. I want to make sure there's still some good contrast. And then while I'm here, let's do font size is inherit, because we want it to kind of fit where it already is. I don't want it to be larger. It kind of looked a little bit off, especially with the command not taking on that font size from the KBD defaults. And the last thing is let's do a border radius of like that's too much. Let's do like 3 pixels. And the last thing is maybe just a tiny bit of padding. Let's give it a shot. Let's do like 3 pixels again with padding and see what that does to it. So, okay, so it's not taking my inherit for it's probably, maybe it's because it's monospace. Let's take a look. Font family is monospace. Let's see. Maybe we'll just have to force it to, I don't mind it being monospace because I think that's kind of a nice touch there. Let's do, yeah, sorry, I'm trying to decide here. Let's just do 12 pixels. I don't really like to have it set quite like that. And maybe we'll switch this to rem just so that it's 0.875 rem. So it's a little larger. Maybe let's just take it down to 75.75 rem. Okay, so that looks a little bit better. Monospace does take up more room because each letter is the exact same space, whereas like, this E might be less, like, this R is less width space than maybe the X. Whereas in this case, the monospace is always the same. That's what monospace means. One space, right? So it does take up more room. And so it can be a little bit, maybe even a little bit shorter. But this is feeling nice, I think, for the most part. Yeah, I feel like that's still landing in a good spot. So I think we're good to go actually with it. It's just kind of cool that it just kind of calls it out, makes it kind of look like a key. And that's pretty nice. So there we go. We've got a couple things down. Let's look at, let's do one more. I think the HR is down here somewhere. Here we go. HR. Okay, so we've got, this is very much smashed in the middle there. So let's take a look at what we can do for our HR. This one is, we can just make this very consistent sizing. It doesn't matter if it's before or after a certain element. It can just kind of have some space. It's like respect me space, It's just gonna be margin top and bottom. We can even just do this. Yeah, the sides we don't need to worry about left and right. But what should our top and bottom be? Well, let's grab this, and this kind of leads me into my next. Yeah, so image right here. We're going to put that as the margin. So I'm going to switch over here and refresh. There we go. That's looking a lot better. So that kind of leads me to one of the things I wanted to do really fast with this system before we finish up some of the last couple of tags that I've got here is we've been hard coding all of these values, and there's a ton of these that are just repeated over and over again. So what I wanted to do is take a look at creating a little system. so we're pretty consistent as far as like it's always if you want to think of it as like quarters, like so like 20.25, 0.75. We haven't done too much that's outside the realm of that more even like partials or like fractions. Other than maybe the 0.87s, we've got 0.5. That's pretty round. This one's kind of one of those unique ones, right? So for the most part, we can kind of set up a little system and just have it all be referenced so that if we ever need to change the spacing, it does sit, consistently throughout the entire system. So what we're going to do is I'm going to start right up here. Oops. Now we are still, I wanted to show you this. Where did we go? Okay. Yeah. So we're still up here. We're going to set some like article spacing CSS variables so that it can remember what we're doing. So I'm going to set we're going to prefix this with article, and then I'm just going to do space because that's what it is, right? And then I'm thinking maybe we do small, medium, large, extra large. And actually one thing we could do is let's start with medium and just set that as one rem. But one thing we could do, if you really wanted to make this like a solid system, you could just go in and like grab all of these together like as a list up here. So maybe I'll start a comment like that. There's 3 rem, there's 2 rem, there's 1 rem, there's a 1.75. We have a 1.5, a 1.25. We have a 1. We won't worry about zeros just yet. Negative. Oh yeah, that one's kind of interesting. We'll take care of this one a little later. 1.25, we got that one. 8.75 and 5. So we've got that. We've got 0.5. 1.25 we already got. 7.5, 8.5. Yep, I think that's it. I think those are our main values we've been using. I'll throw in the 0 as well. Mostly just for reference. I don't think we're going to set a property for that, or a variable for that one, just because that one, I don't see that being necessary. But yeah, this is kind of what I would do whenever I'm creating a brand new system, outside of long form, just any kind of CSS system. I like to see what kind of values I'm already using and then come up with a system that kind of matches that or makes sense with that. So actually we have a little too many right now. And actually these two, so yeah, the 3 rem, 2 rem, those are not spaces. So we don't have to count those, and neither do we have to count H3 or H4. So actually I'm going to separate and see and just make sure that, okay, so 1.25, that's our largest so far. All right, 1.25, is that really our largest space? Oh, yeah. Actually, that's kind of cool. Okay, so yeah, 1.25 is our largest. So this would be like the font sizes. And then this one would be our actual spacing. And then I'm just going to get rid of 0 actually. So yeah, we've got a medium, a large, a small, and extra small. That's kind of how I see it. Since we only have 4 of these, which is actually kind of nice. It makes it kind of nice to handle that there's not too many. And that's another thing, is we want consistency. We don't want things to be extravagant or like excessive. especially with long form, maybe you have to have a larger, maybe you have to do like zeros, like 100 or something, 200, in order to have more fine-grained control over large systems with a lot more variance in the spacing. But that's kind of why I like this chunking it down. We're focused on the article spacing, and we've got our large, medium, small, and extra small. And that just makes it really easy for us to even just see it and just intuitively know, okay, that's our smallest, like extra small, that's about as small as it gets, right? I mean, that's pretty, that's pretty tight spacing. So I'm just going to fill in the rest of these, and then 1 rem, that's right. Okay. So I'm not sure. Oh, and also, I got to set this as root. That's why I'm getting some angry lines there. So what we could do is we could, if you let me restart here. I do have this NDT article, so my prefix and then article. I could absolutely make that the parent selector, and that's probably better to kind of contain your styles. If you were to grab these styles, put them somewhere else on a different project. So you could put them right on the root, which means that the entire, your whole site basically that has access to this styles sheet is going to have access to these spacing, what are they called? Selector, variables. Wow. My vocabulary today is struggling. But we could, since I do have that parent container, I can also put that on there. And that might be nice to just kind of, again, containerize it so that if there is a heading, for example, that's outside of our long form content, and we don't want it to be impacted by the article spacing, it will just be contained to whatever's inside of this NDT article. So that's what I'm going to go for. That's probably the better practice, I should say. And now what we can do is just grab all of these. Let's go find them all. I'm going to replace, oops, I don't want that. Let's go up here. We'll do a replace with var, paste in our variable here. And so I'm going to go through this, and we can replace, we don't want to actually do the font size. So yeah, we want to replace that one, boom, and boom. And so if I go back down here just to check it out, we can see our HR now has that large spacing surrounding it. So if I save and go back here, let's just double check that it is still working, and that looks great. So you can now see that it's pulling that 1.25 rem into that variable, and we are good to go. So that's super, super nice. So let's do the same thing with our 1 rem. I'll take that out here, 1 rem, and this is going to be our medium. So we don't want to do it on every time we see this, because we don't want the font sizes to be impacted, because those are different scopes. And so we'll do this one, and this one, and this one, and this one, and that's it. So save. And let's double check right here. 875. 875 is our small, right? Small. And we're going to go down. So, okay, that's a font size. But this is a spacing, so I'll change just that one. And then 0.5 is our extra small. So I'll go ahead and go through there. In this case, this one's interesting. Let's go back to it. I'm gonna skip that for a sec. We'll do it on here. That's our margin. That's good. And then that one also is good. So yeah, let's go back to see this negative one. So I still think that this merits a spacing unit, and it is the exact same. It just needs to be negative. So what we could do actually is I'm going to grab it out of here. We're going to surround this with a calc statement. So I'm going to pay, so sorry, I'll type in calc here, open the parentheses, put in your variable, and then we're just going to multiply it times -1, and that should give us the exact same results of that -0.5 rem. And that just makes it easy so that the absolute value matches, right? And then we just needed this particular one to be negative. So that's still a nice way to keep things consistent. And with everything else, we should actually probably be good. Is that right? Oh, there's some M's in there. 0.7. Oh, I missed one. 0.75 rem. So let's see what happens when we do this. All right. Oh, an 875. Okay, so this is where, yeah. So this is probably a good one because this is where we kind of introduced one that maybe wasn't supposed to be there. So let's take a look at the small really fast. Space, small. Let's find that. Okay, so we did need that. Oh, it's just the padding left. Okay. Let's take a look. Just really fast. Okay, so, oh, that's right. That's because we wanted this to kind of match up. So actually, since there's only one instance here of this particular one, I'm actually going to swap this back to 0.875 rem because that had to line up. So we made it so that the bullet would basically line up. This one's kind of, you know, what they call magic number-y, like you basically come up with a number that's going to work in the context. So it's probably not going to be the most systematic one. And partially that's because of the font choice that we have, and font size. So it's going to be needing a little bit of tweaking anyway. So let's actually just swap out the 875 should now just be the 0.75, which is the more common one, which is why there's still so many of those hanging around. So let's, because yeah, the small we shouldn't have had just the one. 0.75 rem. That's looking a lot better. We can already see from our count here. Here we go. So yeah, we need this to be small, small, small. Beautiful. Double check here. Yep, we're looking good. Oh, oops. I got that as a font size. 0.75 rem. There we go. So let's just do our font sizes now so that we can have that in our system as well, because this is just for spacing. And now we can do article font size. I do like to have kind of larger, what are they called, like names in these, just because it helps me understand what specifically it is. So I don't mind having that extra character count, if you will. Let's do font size. Oh, and that's the other thing. Because font size has some problems. Okay, so what I would prefer to do is kind of take the approach kind of like doing classes for H1s. So like in Bootstrap, for example, they actually declare a class on the H1 and the H2, but it's basically the exact same as the tag. It's just a class, and that way you can, if for some reason your headings need to have different sizing, you don't have to use the wrong heading semantically. So what that means is H1 should always be your first heading, usually just only one anyway. Everything else should be H2s. If there's a heading inside of an H2, like here's my big ideas, H1, here's a couple of points in that idea, that's H2s, here are some sub points inside of those H2s, that's when you use H3. You don't choose it based on, you know, the font size. So having a class allows you to have that flexibility for, like, if for some reason visually it doesn't make sense to use this H2 size, we want it to be smaller, for example, then we can just throw on a class H3, H2, you know, and it will absorb that font size. So I actually like to do that with the variables. So I know what the H1 is. And I usually just do font size H1 because usually that's just kind of my shorthand. We probably should do font size. So what I'm doing is, this is the general system. This is the tag, so we're getting a little more specific as we go from left to right in our name. And then this is the specific property. So if it was line height, we could swap that out. If it was, you know, specific to H1, so the line height of H1, etc. So that's kind of, you know, that's how I approach things. So we'll just bust this out really fast here. Let's do that as 2, and 175 is H3, 1.75, cool. And then I won't bother, well, let's see, these are just, oh yeah, so okay, 125, one more here, H4, and then the rest are actually 1 rem, so there we go, H5. Sweet. And that way we can just hurry and grab this. We're gonna do boom, var is, oops, too many dashes. There we go. And this one's gonna be var. See, and that's also kind of the cool thing, is I don't even have to look up, you know, oh, which one was it, like which size, whereas, you know, some of these other ones where it's like the spacing, I do have to remember, you know, do I want it to be a small, extra small? But in this case, you just match it with the tag, which to me it just makes a lot of sense. It just makes it so much easier for me to remember what they are, probably because I see them the most. Yeah, so H4, and then var H5, and this can be var H6. And we probably should do one more for the paragraph style. That's probably a good idea. So I'm going to add one more, but this time it's going to be for P, paragraph, and then we can just throw that on right here, var, boom, and change it to a P. Cool. So this is, I know that's a lot of setup, but really this is going to help accelerate kind of our speed here. So let's go ahead and start matching some of these. So like I do need a little bit of a name for something like this one because it's slightly smaller. Sometimes I have gone with a name like pixel size or like rem size even. It's not my favorite. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to create one that's like a small font size. And then this is going to be our, what we had set, which was 875. Yeah, I just feel like that's probably going to be our easiest, you know, we could even set it up this way, kind of like we just did with the spacing, and have this be, you know, our medium, aka our regular is 1 rem. We have a small, which is 875. And then we have like a large, maybe that's 1.5. Yeah, I just feel like that's going to be a pretty easy system for us to remember. So let's check this out. Let's go to 1 rem, and start filling in our medium font size. So let's check this out, see if we can find any 1rems hanging out still. I don't think there are. Okay, cool. We can do the 0.875 and do small. So let's see. There's one. It's a font size, so let's do that. This one is still a spacing, and we need to figure out, we might come back to this one, but not in this live stream, I don't think. And then 1.5 rem, 1.5, and that's going to be our large. So let's check it out. And I don't see that as an option, so maybe let's try 1.75. Nope, still not. 1.5. Okay, well, cool. I don't think we even need a large, but at least we have it now, so that if we need it, we might even go like 1.25, and then extra large would be 1.5, because we still don't want it to really compete with the H1 in this long form context. So that's probably going to be our best shot. So now that we finally cleaned up a little bit of our styles here, so that there's some consistency, let's just double check. I'm still going to leave the M's alone. There's a 0.75 rem. Why didn't I not get that? Because that is our... Oh, that's right. We don't have... Okay, so now we need an extra small. So I think that's probably still... that's so close, though. 875 is not that far off from 0.75. But for our purposes, I think that's actually going to be correct, So let's go down. Let's see, what was it? 0.75 here. There we go. And we can now swap that out with extra small. Boom. All right. So now I think we are back in like so much better place. This is so much easier to like make massive updates all at once, right? So that's kind of the cool thing about this. All right, so let's keep busting through these what they call little tags that we've got. We can see if I refresh, I haven't messed it up too bad. There's still all the spacing looks pretty good. Let's do this one. This one is kind of fun for coding examples. Like maybe you have a blog or something. There is this sample tag, and what I'm gonna do is go over here. Let's see. I need output. There we go. So you can see right here we've got kind of another instance, kind of like that keyboard example, where we've got our monospace, we've got a slightly larger font size, and this is, if we go over to MDN, the point of the sample is, I think it's just for output, as if you were like telling, maybe we're doing a tutorial on like bash scripting or something, and inline, yes, computer for output from a computer program. So maybe we're doing bash scripting, and we can see that if you run this command, it will output the following stuff. We want to be able to see what that is, and so this kind of helps you identify that clearly, both visually and semantically, like we've discussed. So that's kind of cool. And yeah, so we've got these as an example. These are inline. If I'm correct here, I think it is. Yeah, inline text. So we do want to probably put it in paragraph tags usually, but right now I've got it inline, so it doesn't have to be all on its own, is what I'm saying. It totally can work just inline. Because in the context of this sentence, it just makes sense. So I am going to do, let's go back to our code and add in our sample tag here. And we're going to, all right, we're basically going to be doing the same kind of thing with our keyboard. So the font size, I think, can go back down. I think we can add a background color, and that's kind of makes it a little bit fun, right? So maybe it's maybe it is just a black. I don't really know where this came from, this specific hex code, but hey, that works. Maybe that can be our we could swap that out for like a yet another CSS variable. And then we can use the same. I really like having just a little bit of a border radius. It makes it look a little bit more friendly. Let's save that and check it out. Oh, and I forgot the color. If it's going to be a black background color, we got to do good contrast. So let's do FFF, FFF. I know you can just do 3 Fs, but based on my email days when I was doing email development, that would not work. So I always just do the full hex code, no shortcuts. So yeah, I mean, that's kind of looking nice. Like it kind of looks like a terminal just like spat out these couple of numbers. So I think that's kind of cool, and that's probably about as as much as we need for it. The only thing I'm trying to think, because the only problem with inline stuff is going to be similar to like the code tags, where if there is more, so like let me just add some more here, more text so it wraps on the next line. I think that's where we're gonna run into some issues, so I'm just gonna throw in some random characters here and refresh. Okay, so yeah, we do run into a little bit of this where it's like luckily it's not cutting, so I can see from the code that I just threw in there, it's not cutting it off in the middle of the word, but it is still a little bit jarring. I don't love that. I don't know. This one's gonna be tough. I think I'm gonna leave it as is because it's not awful. It's still pretty clear, this is all together. I just don't love the spacing, specifically. If you can see on I'm kind of highlighting the H at the second line here. It's really smashed up against the edge there of the black, and same with the I at the very top right. The text in the background are super smashed together. Don't love that for readability. But yeah, I'm not really sure how to fix that, because the only other way would be to just have a wise content manager who can be like, well, this needs to be its own, not inline, basically. It needs to be in its own space. So we'll leave this one alone for now because we are speed rounding this one, and let's go check out one of our other ones. So we're gonna skip over underline. Let's see, find you like this. Okay, so there is one thing with underlines. It won't. Let's see. It won't break anything. Oh, interesting. It's not actually underlining. They changed the. Hold on. I thought I had gotten all of these correct, but maybe it's deprecated or something. So maybe we don't have to worry about it. Nope, it should be there. You unarticulated underline. Okay. This element used to be called underline, sometimes still misused that way. Oh, interesting. Well, I don't know that that's interesting. So they're kind of using it like these little highlights for misspellings. This is really interesting. Yeah, this is one of the reasons why I love having MDN just kind of open and ready, because this is not really. Avoid using it with. Okay, well, there you go. I mean, I think this is basically telling me that we really shouldn't be styling it at all to be like an underline. So yeah, we want to kind of change that so it's not yeah. Okay. Well, okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to change, instead of using the U, we're going to do a span of class underline to be more semantically correct. And then we can just add this little class here so that we're not doing anything that we're not supposed to, right? So we don't want to style that U tag with the underline. We're actually going to just do it on this class. And let's do just a normal, I think it's solid. Let's check that out. If I refresh here. Oh, still not working. What's going on? Maybe I have another, it won't break. Oh, I do have another one. Is this the one? Okay, so this is the, okay, so underline, text decoration. What is the deal here? Is it, let's see. Oh, underline, that's right. Okay. Shows you what, usually it's none, right? That's our go-to attribute for the underline or for the text decoration, but it's underline if you want it to be just normal. So the one cool thing, this, I don't think this used to happen. I'm gonna zoom in here just a little bit so we can see. If you'll notice, this Y has, in typography, it's called a descender because it goes below the baseline, this little kind of tail on the bottom of the Y. And the problem with underlines is that they usually cross right through it. I think this has been changed in recent years where browsers are now respecting kind of that space so that it doesn't impede the readability as much, because we do break a little bit for that descender. The one thing that is cool though, if you happen to need to use it, is you can actually do a text decoration offset. Yeah, offset. And maybe we'll do just like a 0.5 rem. I'm not sure, that might be too much, but just so we can see, yeah, that's way too much. But ideally, if your line height is large enough to support that, we want it to actually be fairly below that line, just because you can't always trust that the browser will respect it, depending on the browser, I guess. But yeah, it just underlines are not great for readability, and so I'd usually prefer just to not have them at all. But I understand that sometimes you do need those, so we could probably do like a 0.15 maybe. See if that just gets it just a little bit. I really don't like that anymore, just because they've kind of solved it. So what this is basically an optional kind of a thing for you to look at, you know, what are your fonts that you're using in your system, and do they work for the most part in other browsers with the descender in when combined with an underline. So I actually kind of, I mean, it's really close. I almost would take it up just a little bit. So maybe we'll do like a 1.25 or something, so that it can just, yeah, see how it kind of, it's kind of hard to see on this, but let's go in real close and try and find it again. Find it won't. There we go. Okay, so if you can see how that kind of how it terminates, this little kind of ball shape at the very end of this Y, it kind of matches up with this same plane as the line that it's on. That's kind of why I would prefer to just nudge it down just a tiny little piece, rather than where it was. I'm going to turn it off screen so that you can see this is the default and this is with our modification. Just gives it just enough breathing room to kind of, you can still read, it's not too tight, and it is also visually lining up. So this would have to be kind of tailored to your font. So that's my rant over. So we'll go back to our speed round. But yeah, I love typography, and so I feel like anytime we can look at these little details, I think it's important for readability's sake, and also just for you know, shows your skills, right? Designers will be super impressed with you if you can talk about things like descenders on your fonts, on your text. So all right, that is done. Let's tackle. There's a couple more left. Let's go grab our table. So I think that's at the bottom here. So if I go all the way to the bottom, we've got a table here. And right now it's kind of weird. I think I might have, did I put some styling on there? Oh, yeah, it is a table, okay. Oh, maybe I did. Oh, that's right. Okay, so I can turn that off. Yeah, okay, so that was me kind of playing around, so I'll just turn that off really fast. So call out. Okay, great column, background color, boom. Okay, so because that was not necessary. The one thing that I did do is I pulled it out of the text a little bit, and this is still something I'm playing with. Right now I've just stolen a bit of Ryan Mulligan's article on like CSS layout breakouts, I think, and Kevin Powell's exploration into that grid grid layout, like being able to break out of the flow of the text. So like normally we've got this line that goes from the S and the B of this heading all the way down to that E of the extra legal stuff, and it kind of, there's just this horizontal line that, or sorry, not vertical line that just kind of goes where all the text is supposed to kind of line up to. So all of this left aligns to that imaginary line, and this table is going to break out of that, and that's by design because usually tables have a lot of information. That's why they're in tables, and so we want to be able to provide enough space, whereas readability up here, we don't want it to be very long, but because of the nature of a table, we don't read them the same way as a paragraph, right? So we've got segmented information that we're going through. So it does deserve just a little bit of a larger width. And so let's fix up our table to be just a little bit more usable, because right now it's just kind of mashed all together still. Oops, table. Boom. Let's see. I think we want, is it cell spacing? What's the one? There's one that's always like a problem. Border space. There's always a problem with it, and I cannot remember what it is. I think it's cell spacing. And I think you want it as a 0. So let's see what that does. It doesn't look like it's doing it. Come on. Unknown property. Okay. Well, let's see. Dang it. Oh, it collapse. It's yeah, what is it? It's collapse. Border collapse. Oh my goodness. Okay, 0. Yeah, we want border collapse as a 0. Let's save. It's probably going to be hard to tell on this. Anyway, I'm pretty sure that's the right one. So I'll double check on that one just to make sure. But there is something that Oh, that's right. It's collapse, not zero. Collapse. There we go. All right, let's see if that actually makes a difference. I'm going to save. Okay, that's so much better because usually it has like these little tiny spaces around everything. It's so frustrating. So yeah, border collapse, that's what it is. We don't want that at all. We just want them collapsed. We're going to add some alignment. We want our all right, so let's take a look at our table. Okay, so there's a couple of things here. You may or may not have seen a caption used with a table, but that is actually totally valid. And there's a couple of things we can do with that, but I want to just hold off on that really fast and take care of our basic alignment and stuff like that. So T head, that's our table head. We're going to start with that. Let's go ahead, since we're using Sass, we can just nest this. The table head, the text align should always be left. Let's make sure that that's doing it right. Yep. Cool. So that takes care of that. It's going to be so much easier to read if it's left aligned, especially in this specific instance. You could do center aligned, but again, it's just not, center aligned is just usually not the right way to go. Very, very rarely should you do center aligned. Let's see. And then we've got inside of our table head, we also have a TH, right? Is it TH? Yeah. So that's our specific, the actual header content, like the cell basically of the head. And in this case, we are looking at it's transforming this, I believe. Inspect here. Transform? No? Oh, I typed it in like that. So, okay, so I'll fix that in the article just so it doesn't bother me so much. I'm going to select this. I'm going to Control or Command Shift P as in panel, and then you can just start typing lowercase and I'll just take care of that for you. A little Visual Studio Code trick that I absolutely love, and that just helps me. Yeah, that just makes it look a little more clean. So the one thing we could do is make these table headings just slightly larger. So we could just grab so we've got our, our medium font size. Yeah, we could go with this large font size just so that it's a little more clear that, it's a heading, and sometimes it just makes it a little bit nicer to read. So we're gonna do that, just to make it a little bit more prominent. I know it's already bold, so you don't have to do this, but I do like that. And then this will stay the same. The one thing we could do is add in just a couple of lines and spacing, so that it just looks a little easier to read, because right now when it's all smashed up again, this big space between in this case the flag cell and the meaning cell is still a little bit jarring to me. So I feel like having just a border on top and bottom is going to help out a lot with that, and this is pretty common. So let's bust out of the table head and let's go into table body, and in here, this is where things get a little bit tricky. We've got our TD. Well, actually, sorry, we want it on the TR, I believe. So we've got a row, and we want the border to go all the way across the entire table, so we would want it on the row. So let's go and TR, boom. Let's do a border. I'm not going to do just a straight border. We're just going to do a border. I think we want to do a border bottom. And I'll just show you really quickly why that would be. If it's 1 pixel solid, black, you can see, oh, it's gonna be kind of hard to see, but sometimes you get a doubled up effect where since it's border on top and bottom, sometimes that can happen. Maybe that's what the border, if I turn off border collapse, is that where we're gonna see this? Nope. All right. Well, anyway, I just prefer to choose either bottom or top, especially because sometimes, maybe it's if you put it on the head. Anyway, makes it kind of tough. And also I don't like the left and the right borders. You can see it's drawn basically a rectangle around it. Not my favorite. We're going to just choose, I think we're going to go with bottom. And so if we switch back here, now we can see why it's already easy enough to read with just the one line. We don't need, we don't need to be boxed in on the width on the far sides of this table. I just feel like it's a lot easier to read with just the borders. Now we don't have a border above this one, and that's a problem because it kind of looks a little weird. So that's where I usually try to put a TR on the head as well. So I might actually just pop this out so it's not tied just to the body. We're gonna do it on everything. So I'll just move it out here. Everything has a border bottom, and we can always turn it off on specific things. So if we don't like how totals has a border, maybe we want the top and the bottom border of like the whole table to be gone, we can absolutely do that. But now that we've chosen just border bottom, we can now just turn off that on one thing. So that's kind of the thought process anyway. Yeah, I think now we just need some spacing, and honestly, it should be on all the TRs regardless of which one. Well, I don't know. I'm debating on the heading still, on the T head. So if we'll just put it on everything. So I'm gonna grab our space right here. We're going to put it on our TR, and this is going to be our padding. We'll do top and bottom and nothing on the sides. So if I save and refresh, oh, is that where I'm going wrong? That's right. I think there is something. It doesn't like padding. That's right. So let me just double check. Yeah, tables are fun. There's all these little things that kind of make it hard to work with sometimes if you don't remember the specifics. Yeah, see margin. Okay, so yeah, that's not gonna work. We're going to add, oh, I think this is where you have to do it on the cell itself. So we're actually gonna, oops, we're gonna cut this. Let's go into the TD, which would be in the table body. So we are actually going to end up doing this as not on everything. Ooh, and that actually makes me wonder if we need some spacing, but we'll start this. Okay, there we go. That's kind of why tables are a little bit weird, because you need to put the padding inside of the cell instead of the row. So it doesn't like it on the row, it just ignores it. Now, if this TD were a little bit larger, like longer text, we would run into a problem. So we'd probably do want a margin, a padding. Let's try it out. Let me just add some quick text here. Okay, so it is kind of taking care of that for me. Let's just add this like one more thing. Okay. So it looks, it's like, it's kind of tight, but it still is adjusting for me, which is good. I still think we should probably have just a little bit of extra space for that first cell here. And actually it could just be all of them except for the last cell, because if this line runs up against the far right side, that's okay because we don't have a border on it, so it will still look contained and readable. So what I'm gonna do is we're gonna add a padding. Let's do padding dash right, and then we're gonna do our probably just our small spacing and see what that looks like. So we just got a little bit more like delineation between the end of the cell. That actually might not be enough. I almost want to just do the medium, so we'll change that. Yeah, that just seems like it's just enough to really make sure that it's a clear delineation between the meaning column and the flag column, and so that just makes it so much nicer to read. We might be able to take down the top and bottom. I guess it depends on how much how many rows you need. Like if we need to make this table a little bit less airy in the middle, if you will, we could take down that top and bottom. Yeah, that kind of looks good to me as far as these two. Yeah, it just makes it a little, so you don't have to scroll as long to go through all that content. So if your table's really long, you might have to adjust it to be a smaller or a tighter fit. But I think that's working. I'll just throw in the extra small just so we can see it. Save that. Yeah, that's still working for me. I still feel like it's not too tight, it's not too cramped. I can still read things pretty well. So yeah, you've got some options there on just your use case of the table itself. I'm going to switch it back to just our small, and then we also need to work on our header and our footer just a little bit. There's a couple things we want to take care of. We're going to do table, I think it's foot, T-foot. Let's double check. T-foot. Okay, cool. So we're going to do pretty much the same thing as here. So I'm going to copy the TD on down here, but I do want to have just a little bit more space because it is the footer. So that kind of looks like this. We have a little bit more space. I also want everything to be left aligned. Yeah, I'm just gonna grab it. I was thinking about maybe combining those two tags, but I think it'll just make more sense to just do left on the T-foot. We could be explicit with the body and put text left right here as well, just to like make sure we are all left aligned. That's gonna be your easiest, most readable, what's it called? That's just going to be our easiest flow, if you will. Yeah, this, I think, I'm debating because I don't usually love to see the bottom border with tables, but in this case it actually kind of makes sense. Let's add in just a little bit of our color, just so that it's very clear, what we're doing here. Let's grab our color from the keyboard, background color. There we go. And we can put this on our head and our footer. And let's see how that looks. Cool. And this is where we get into that problem with the if you do have background colors, on your table, you do need to extend them a little bit past, because for example, this left align, this is butting up right against that that background. So because we're just going to do that for the sake of this system, this demo here, we're going to account for this now. So we do need to actually add in just a little bit of space on our TD. So we could even just get rid of our 0 on the left and right. Same with this one. And we might need to add, we'll need to add padding to our table head, or our TH cell as well. So if we go over here and I save, now things have shifted. I missed I missed this for sure. Whoops, T foot. Is there a different? Oh, interesting. TH can go in the T foot. So I didn't know that. Let's do yeah, that shouldn't be a problem if I do TH, I think. So that pushes that one over. That's really interesting, actually. I'll have to double check to make sure that that's correct, but I do think I was correct when I set this file up. But yeah, I don't usually do footers on tables. So this is starting to work for me. I think we'll take off the bottom border on our T foot. So we can just do border of, is it 0, I think. And nope, it's none. That's right. Border is none. Save, and we'll go down here. Nope, that's because I'm still putting it on the wrong thing. We need it on our row. TR. Is that correct? Let me just make sure. TR, yep. And it's the TR that has our border. Perfect. Okay. So yeah, we're going to take off the border on the T foot row. I'm going to save. Refresh. There we go. So since it has these, since the footer and the header have this color, I think it's okay to get rid of the borders. Or you could just add them back on to the top and bottom. I think it's just a matter of what personal preference at this point. The last thing that we could do is we could just add in a little helper. So if I were to add a couple more rows, I'll just add some more of the same. Save that. So let's say we've got a bigger table, right? Sometimes it's helpful to have, maybe a little highlight, or every other one to be, in a different background color. So what we could do is on our body we can go TR, and then it's let's see, whoops, nth child. How do you do that? Let's see. Why am I struggling with this right now? Let's see. Is it nth? Yeah, nth child. Okay. I'm not sure why that was. And I think it's like 2 to meaning like every other. And I still think it needs to be TR. There we go. Okay. And then we're going to put on our background color. Let's choose something that's a little bit different color, just so that it's a little more distinct from the header and the footer. So I'm just going to go like with a light blue. Perfect. And I just like to have it in hexadecimals. So now we can see, oh, nope, I did that wrong. It's not 2. That's literally the second child. It's, even, I think. If you want it to be on the 2, 4, 6, I'm pretty sure. Let's check it out. There we go. Okay. Yeah, so that's even. If I change that to odd, then it should flip the order so it starts with the blue color. There we go. Okay, So that's how you would do that. I'm not a big fan of, I don't think it's necessary when we have underlines. So if you take away the underlines, then you probably do absolutely need these colors for a long table. Really helpful to help your users be able to read this kind of stuff. Probably not super necessary for this one. Yeah, but that's just so that you know, so that you've got that in your tool bag. I'm gonna take that off for now because I think this is still a lot easier to read even without the colors. It's not as quite as distracting. And we can always modify, you know, the colors of the border, for example, to back that off. Maybe it's a little bit too aggressive right now. Maybe this gray is still a little bit too in your face and not quite contrasting enough. But that's kind of your basic table styling. Let's take a look at one more. This may or may not be something that you encounter a lot, but I still think it's an important one to grab. So we can add a caption to our table. In our case, it's showing above the table, and you can actually swap that. So let's go over to table. Let's see, caption. It's fun to show you this because I think this is really important. But yeah, so we can add a caption, and I think you can change the there we go. You can change a line without having to move it physically out of the HTML. So we don't have to put it at the bottom. If we want it to appear at the bottom, it doesn't have to start at the bottom. Oh, hey, look, it's been deprecated. Oh, dang, I did not know that. Style using CS properties. Let's see. Oh, interesting. Okay. And it actually does need to be the... Okay, so there you go. I was wrong in the first place. Well, there you go. Probably shouldn't be using that one. So we could probably add in when the table element contains caption, it's the only descendant of figure element, you should use fig caption. Interesting. So I think we'll just call it. We're not going to worry about this one. I'm going to get rid of this because I think that's not going to be a good, hence why you rarely see it, right? So I think we can call it good. I'm going to get rid of this because it's deprecated. Don't want to encourage you to use that. Yeah, we're good. We're good with tables, so that's cool. Let's do the aside. Yeah. Okay, aside. Okay, so this one's going to be a little tricky. I think, here's the thing. Accessibility-wise, an aside is something that is literally aside of the main content. It's something kind of pulled out. So let's just make sure we check my work, right? So aside is right here, right there. It's only indirectly related to that main content. So maybe it's a sidebar or like a call out box where maybe your blog, you just want to add in just a little bit of extra context that people don't have to read, but maybe it would help. I like to think of it as kind of like in a textbook where you've got like this big chapter and then maybe there's just this little box on one of the layouts, and it has a little bit of extra context, a little bit of extra information. It's still related obviously to the main topic of that chapter or that section, but it is not necessary to read. And in this case it could also be like a right here we go. So this is kind of kind of what we're looking at, where we're talking about salamanders in this example, and then it's like, hey, also this particular newt has a deadly neurotoxin. It's like, this isn't necessary to understand all of this other text, but it's just kind of like a cool fact or something else that just adds just a little bit of, just a little something, just a little extra flavor maybe to your content. So I'm just going to do something kind of similar to this, where we've got just a little bit of a call out box. And what we're going to do is, if I go back over to our code, we've got an aside with a paragraph in there, and I'm going to go down, we're going to create aside. And honestly, I would probably prefer to see a class on this, just because asides, you might use them differently. I don't know. I'm still a little bit torn, partially because I haven't done like a ton of research as far as the accessibility implications of this. So for right now, we are going to change the background color. Let's grab this same color we've been kind of playing with. And we're also going to do a little bit of padding to kind of keep that flow with our text. Since we know that this aside is going to be more of like there's going to be a paragraph text, it's not just a single word or something, we're going to use a space element here, or a space, variable. And I think it can be the small or extra small. Maybe we'll go with extra small for now. And then I still want to have that border radius. We were doing 3 pixels. So if I save, there we go. We can kind of see it's a little bit kind of, it's called out. It's the only problem with this particular one is that it still looks like it's inside of the flow of the main content. So it could be a little bit confusing, especially if we had content that was kind of like this example, where this is kind of like a random fact that technically is related to here, but it doesn't help me understand this necessarily. But maybe this one is a little bit more helpful. So that's where I can see needing a class for different types of these callouts, of these asides. So for right now, what I'm going to do is assume that it is okay inside of the content like this, the flow. And we are going to add in a little bit of spacing, kind of like our images. So if I go back up here, like when we have an image or a figure, we're basically going to grab this spacing, and it's going to be on top and bottom. So I'm going to do a margin, top and bottom, nothing on the sides. That way it just has a little bit more room to breathe. So that's cool. That's kind of fun. We could do one more thing. I think this is pretty standard with call outs, if you will. Like if I'm looking at Obsidian or something else, there's a lot of times we have like a border on the left. Maybe it's like 5 or 4 pixels, something like that. 4 pixels solid, and then I'll grab this color and increase it just a little bit, like make it a little bit darker. Yeah, let's go maybe like this, something like that, and I'll save and refresh. And now I've got just kind of like a fun little, I think that's a fun little visual indication that this is a call out. It's not, it's not just, highlighting a specific text. Like I'm not in the flow of the article trying to highlight this particular paragraph for some reason. It just seems like this is kind of like a nice little indicator that's like, we're also sticking in this extra information. Feel free to ignore if you want. So I think that's a kind of a fun fun way to just make that aside a little bit more obvious that it is an aside rather than, again, part of the content. Like, you have to read it. Maybe you can skip it. Maybe you can tell by the, maybe there's a keyword in here that's like, oh yeah, I already know what a float is, or what, whatever. So I can kind of skip over that. So that is super cool. There is literally just one more that I wanted to take a look at, which is the address. And the reason why is because my specialty is in marketing websites, right? So long form is very common on marketing websites, but especially things like press releases or news releases where the company's making some kind of announcement, and a lot of times they're going to add this little thing at the very bottom. It's going to say PR contact or some other iteration of that, but basically it's somebody that you can contact, a media contact or representative, and they'll throw in their email address. Maybe they'll put in the company phone number, or maybe even a literal mailing address. So I wanted to tackle this tag specifically because that is actually pretty common, and I think it makes so much more sense to just add the right semantic tags around it. So let's not address, I need to find the author name. So yeah, down here at the bottom of the page, we've got, I'm gonna do that just so I can bump this up. We've got our PR contact, we've got some person's name with their email and their phone, and then so here's what that looks like. And I did forget there's actually one more that I want to cover, but we'll take that in just a sec. So address is one more important tag that we want to take care of. Boom. All right, address. Now we are going to, let's see. I think it's already italicizing all of this, which is not my favorite. I don't think that's necessary, is what I'm saying. Address. Yeah, font size, italic, that's the default size, or default font style. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set that back to just font style is just going to be regular or normal. So yeah, normal. I don't love italics for this. It's not really the right use case in my mind for it. What I am going to do is, let's see. We need to take care of the spacing. So let's grab the same thing from the aside. We're going to add some spacing around the top and the bottom. And I need to actually save. There we go. And refresh. There we go. Okay. So this is where we run into a little bit of a problem where we had a heading in a sense. This is just a paragraph, but it by having that, like, I don't know. I don't feel like it's appropriate to put this title inside of the address, because I do think it's supposed to be for specific content related to the actual address. So like, I think the name is appropriate. I think this kind of information obviously is appropriate. Oh, actually you can. Oh, I didn't realize that. I didn't realize you could put more information. Okay, so in that case, well, that definitely saves us the trouble here. So that's kind of cool that we can actually just add in kind of a heading type of element here. We can have a little bit of extra text inside of this, and that's not going to be a problem. So I think that's good, actually, because that means that everything inside the address, we just know it has to do with PR contact. Here's the name. Here's the information. Boom. We can refresh. Whoops. Refresh. There we go. The only thing here is we do have a little bit of a spacing problem still. It's not quite as large as it was before, but we still have because there's a paragraph and then a paragraph, so we still have that coming on. Couple ways to fix that. One is we could just get rid of this and make it a break. That might be, that might be the best way to take care of that. We just force it into a break because it's not really a heading. We could use something like an H4, not the actual tag, just the styles from the H4 on there. Yeah, I don't know. That one's kind of hard, but I do actually let's do it as if it were an H4. So that's kind of a good demonstration of why you would want your tags, or sorry, your classes to also have the same styling. And let me just put this back. There we go. Okay, so let me show you what I was talking about. So back here at the top, earlier in the stream, we were talking about adding these classes on top of the H1 and H2 tags. So let's add one more H4, and this is where it's kind of nice, where if you have defined a specific margin bottom, that might be a nice way to grab that same style as if it were an H4 basically. And so you can actually see it's what I meant was H5, because this is actually a little bit larger. That actually might work, but it is a little bit larger. I was thinking that it was the same. I think it's H5 and H6 that are the same font size as text. So I'm going to do H5 instead. H5. And now we can see how this changes that a little bit. Come on. Was it really that? Let's see. H5. Come on. H5 should be one rem. Why is this refresh? There we go. Okay. Just caching a little bit. So now this is the right size. This matches the rest of the paragraphs. I'm trying to think of how to make this make sense in our system with as least resistance as possible, because it's basically like kind of like this, where we had a couple of different stacks of headings. In this case, it's stacks of paragraphs, but we still want it to be no margin, since it's already bold. Let's see. Yeah, I'm not sure what a great solution is at this point. However, we can just go ahead and let's see. There's a couple of ways that we could tackle this, right? We can add another class to our paragraph here. Maybe one that's like title or something, address title even. Something pretty specific to this address element. That's one way we could solve this. Again, we could change it to a BR. That's going to be our least resistant, but I am trying to find ways to not modify the HTML, like not be dependent on modifying the HTML. Because I'd really love for this system to be plug and play, where you just, you take it from this, put it on something else, and it just works. Obviously, that's not ever really going to be possible, which is why I'm thinking that maybe we do modify the HTML in this case. Or the other option is to set an explicit margin bottom on our H5 and 6. And now that I'm talking that one through, I think that's probably the right way to go, because usually you don't actually get to H5s or H6s in the flow of the document. Like, if you really are getting down that way and you're not just choosing those because they look good. You really need that many subheadings. That's a lot of information, a lot of nesting, probably not realistic. So I think I'm okay adding a margin bottom for both the H6 and the H5. The reason why is because usually what that means is we've got, oh, it's not, is it caching again? Nope. And it might be because it's a paragraph. Let's see. I think I'm overriding it in my own system here. Right here. Oh, that's because, dang it, that's why. Okay. So this is where, yeah, that's where it doesn't matter anything that I've done. So yeah, this is one of those cases where it probably does have to be a little bit custom. I was really hoping that there would be an obvious way to add in this little title. I think going with the BR is going to be our best option. BR. Ooh, that was a lot of mental gymnastics. So thanks for sticking with me on that one. Yeah, I'm still not a fan. Partially because I wasn't expecting that to be correct. So that's still, yeah, still a good idea, I guess. To take care of your address specifically. But yeah, you can absolutely add in extra context inside of it. Who knew? And yeah, anyway, so there you go. We've now gotten that done. Last tag, this is actually just a class, but I did add in a footnote class. If we look down here, a footnote. So in case this was, maybe we wanted to cite some sources or whatever, or maybe we just have some extra legal disclaimers that we want to put in. Who knows what they are? That's why it's a class. It's not super semantic. We're gonna add in our font size. We're gonna make this a little bit smaller, right? So we've got our var and article font, small font size, and that, let's see. Yeah, I would almost think that a footnote deserves its own space on top and bottom also, because usually it's going to be at the bottom of the text. We want it to be separated from the text. So I'm almost tempted to put the large spacing around it. So I might just grab that from the aside. We might even need an extra large. Let's check it out. Save. We've got that. The only thing I don't want you to be deceived by is the fact that I did put spacing around the address, and it's no guarantee that the address is just going to magically be after or in front of the footnote here. So I almost kind of want to do just an extra large here, just to be safe. I didn't set an extra large spacing, so I'll switch it back to large so it actually works. Yeah, because this space feels appropriate for me for that, and maybe it's a matter of adding a little bit of a margin top on this as well, just to kind of further separate it from the content. So, or not a margin, a border top. We're going to do 1 pixel solid and just the standard black. And that would also mean that we want to change it to, maybe a margin as well. So maybe that does make sense to have. It makes sense to have a margin on top. So let me go to the right here. So you can see that orange bar, that's the margin. And then we also need some padding because we don't want that line right on top of our text, because that makes it really hard to read. Border bottom is a little hard. Border top makes it even worse, especially when it's that close. So let's add just a little bit of padding. Probably won't do as much as our margin, so let's back this off down to a medium, and I'll save and refresh. There we go. That's looking a lot better. Cool. So we've got a little bit of a, you know, a little footnote section. That's probably good. You know, we could, if you want to know how to do, like, maybe it is we're citing a source or something, we can go in with the super tag here, and if I save that, we got our little one there. Probably add in a space after that. Nope, that didn't work. Oh, interesting. So this might be one more tag we can do, because I thought you could space things. Yeah, I just feel like the one and the S of the source is a little bit too tight. So we just need just a little bit. So here's the tag again. Let's go ahead and grab it and put it in here. Might as well have it. So super, and we're gonna add just probably padding. Maybe let's see. I don't think it matters which one specifically, because we're not going to be messing with colors as much. I will maybe just do margin left, because let's grab our space, because we're not really, I don't know, margins sometimes to me feels like we're separating elements rather than like just the space of the elements. That's not like the best way to describe it, but that's kind of how I mentally come up with my mental model for this. Let's do a small and see if that, I don't know, that might be too big. Oh, hey, look at that. I didn't know that was going to be happening. Oh, okay. Oh, I did margin left. But it's interesting that, oh, the source, okay, so if you do put a space, you can put a physical space in there, which is probably really what I was going for. Let me swap these to, I meant margin right. So, okay, so that added that space. And then I also added an actual space between the tag. So I guess it depends on whether or not you want that space in there. Like the like space bar space is what I'm talking about. So anyway, that's probably still a little bit too large of a space of our margins. So I might have to just go into this and do kind of a magic number solution. That might even be too much, but let's try 0.15 rem. That's looking a little better, almost as if I did use the space on the keyboard. So I guess it depends on what your style of using these super elements or even the sub element. And yeah, so anyway, that's a nice little fix for our final little footnote. So that's gonna be it for this live stream. I think we have done a lot of work. There's one more thing that we want to do, and I'll give you a little heads up on this. You can see that this right up here is really complicated. I think there's a way that we can condense all of this and make this a lot smoother, a lot more readable, and we probably don't need some of these now that we have we've defined our little system here with these the easily referenceable CSS variables. So I think there's a lot of room for us to kind of crunch this down, make it easier, and hopefully by the end of this we'll have just a style sheet that's ready to just pop it out of this context, put it into a different one, and it should just work pretty nicely with the vast majority of cases for your context of your content. So yeah, we've done a lot of really cool stuff with this. Let me just kind of go through. Yeah, I'm just really pleased with kind of the flow of all of this. It has been really nice. There's still a couple of things that we could probably fix up. That one's gonna be tough. The code thing. We'll have to cover that as well. So yeah, for the most part, we have covered almost everything except for code. code snippets and probably our links or buttons. And so that's going to be our last, I think our last kind of complicated problems to solve. So yeah. Last thing I wanted to show you is I am starting a newsletter. If you're interested in learning about like how to interact with technology in maybe a more healthy way, I feel like, you know, sometimes I feel overwhelmed with tech. And so I'm starting a newsletter. I think it's going to be really cool. We're going to cover things like creativity, coding, not going to be specific to code, but I'm still interested in how to make tech an extension of my humanity. Like I don't want to lose my humanity just because I'm using this tech, even that I'm building, right, as a web developer. So that's something you might be interested in. So check out the link in the description. This will be paid eventually, but you can get a free subscription to this for a year if you're willing to there's 3 surveys that I'm going to send out. Yeah, if you're interested in that, feel free to check that out. Thanks so much. Oh, and hey, I'm getting a chat here. Hello from Mexico. Hola. I can't see my screen very well. Sorry about that. I'm gonna grab your text so I can actually see it. Oh, hey, I love this. This is a quick answer for you. Rolando said that he's just starting to learn how to program web pages in CSS. Why do we put the plus symbol in CSS code, or is it another type of code? Super great question. This is kind of, let me switch over to our code here. This is a little bit advanced, I guess, for CSS, because a lot of times we start out just doing, you know, basic, like I'm targeting this tag, right? So just the paragraph. But in this case, what we're doing is we wanted the margin to change when we have an H2 and an H3 stacked on top of each other. So what the plus does, if I hover over this in Visual Studio Code, it's a way to target the H3 when it's following an H2. So in this case, if there is an H2 and then an H3, we're going to change the margin top of the H3. So in this other case, we're stacking an H2 and an H4 on top of each other. And the plus sign says, hey, I see an H2, and then we see an H4 following it directly. And we're going to change the H4 margin top. So it chooses the sibling, I guess you could call it. So it's a little bit more advanced, but it's a really useful way to come up with when you're sequencing, or like when you've got something stacked on top of each other. So let me just go one more over here. So let's see if I can show you an example. I'm pretty sure we had one. Oh, right here. So if I go back over to our code, string format is the thing I'm going to look for. String format. And it should be, yeah. So in this case, we had too much spacing, I believe, between this string format up here and then the prerequisite right here. And so we use that plus to take out the margin top of just this H3 tag. And that's kind of what allowed us to do that. So thanks so much for the question. I really appreciate it. There's one more I'm seeing. It's conditional. Yeah, exactly. Super interesting. I have to learn it. Thanks for your explanation. Yeah, I love it. Thank you so much for tuning in. Really appreciate it. Yeah, and I think that's a fun selector. I actually use it a lot more than I thought I ever would. So it's a good one to kind of know. But yeah, it's a great way to think of it as being conditional. So, all right. I think that's gonna be it for this live stream. Again, thank you so much for tuning in. Really appreciate it. Really appreciate the chat. Thanks, Rolando. We'll see you around next time maybe. And yeah, take care. Thanks.